What's up everybody, it's RobinGaming here. So I am very delighted to see how much attention Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor is really getting at the moment. It seems that a lot of people are very interested in the game, and I saw that with people asking me to do my review as soon as I could. And of course now is the time. It just seems that once the review started coming out, people really realized how great this game is. And I have to admit that as a big Lord of the Rings fan myself, even I did not have this game on my radar at all. I was not looking forward to it. I did not really expect much from it, but I think what really illustrates how much I enjoyed the game is to tell you about how much I actually played it. So I got the game last week on Friday and I played it pretty much the whole weekend through, and then it was Sunday I decided to shut off my PS4, but before that of course I quickly had to check my counter to see how much I had played the game, and surprisingly it was already at 20 hours in total that I put into the game, and I was absolutely blown away. That is probably the longest weekend I have spent gaming in a very long time. What might be a year or maybe even more than that, and that just kind of tells you really how much I enjoyed the game. And I've got the platinum by now after a week. Took me around 35 hours, so I think it's very much the time to do my review on the game. So of course what I do with my reviews, I always talk a bit about a few different points that I think are very important in the game, and of course as always we start off with the story. Now Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor is an open world game, and for an open world game I usually don't really expect it to have a great story. We saw that with Destiny, which the story of that was just absolutely terrible. I'm sorry. Watch Dogs started out pretty decently, but then kind of like went downhill. And I would say that for an open world game, Shadow of Mordor actually quite heavily surprised me. I was very happy to see that the game featured, for example, it had like 20 main missions, and each of those would have 2 to 3 cutscenes, which I thought was very cool. It told a very simple yet still good story, and I think I just don't want to say too much about it. It's something you gotta experience yourself, of course. It's a quest about revenge. Your main character Talion basically has this goal to take revenge on a certain guy. It is safe to say though, and many people ask me about this, you do not need to be a Lord of the Rings fan in any way to really understand the story, or The Hobbit or whatever. You don't need to have read any of the books or seen any of the movies to understand this. Still, if you have done that, it's great, because you will get some of these like references and stuff, which is like I said, is great. But then again, I hope you enjoy it, and then it does get you to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy movies, because those are just absolutely incredible. My favorite movies ever, so I would highly recommend you to watch them actually. But yeah, to talk about Shadow of Mordor. Now that was the story, let's go to the presentation of the game. Now Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor actually just came out on PlayStation 4, Xbox One and the PC a week ago. That being said, it is still a cross-generation game, meaning that next month the game will be coming out on the PS3 and the Xbox 360 as well. And for a cross-generation game, I have to say that the game just looks absolutely stunning, and it is not necessarily stuff like the texture quality that is that great, but it is the lighting, and it is the character models that are very different, and it is like, if you look at Talion, it is the cape kind of like waving in the wind, and if it's raining, the wetness on it, the shininess, that just looks so incredible. And I was blown away to see that for a cross-gen game, this game looked absolutely incredible. The game features 2 main areas. The first one you get to is very dark and grey. That is the land of Mordor, which Lord of the Rings fans will already know and recognize. And although it looks great, once again it's very dark and not really a great place to do those graphics justice. What does change halfway through the game though is you get to a second area, and that's the complete opposite. It's sunny, it's lush, green environments, and it totally brings these graphics to justice. Yeah, I just thought that the game looked very good, and it doesn't mean that the presentation doesn't have any downsides, because it definitely has. One thing that did really kind of like bother me was that it does not have the original Lord of the Rings soundtrack, and for a licensed game I was kind of like expecting this, because I absolutely love that soundtrack. So it was a little bit of a shame to not see or hear any of those tracks being played in the game. It does have a pretty decent soundtrack in the game itself, but yeah, still something I did definitely miss a little bit. So then we get to the gameplay of the game, arguably the most important aspect of it. Now I already said it in a previous video, this game doesn't do anything new. It's not a game. Monolith definitely decided not to try to reinvent the wheel. No, what they decided to do is take some of these very popular games these days, take some of the elements that work, put them all together and perfect them. And at that, I think they did a great job. The gameplay is very much like an Assassin's Creed game, in which you have an open world structure with side quests to do, random events encountering all over the place, stuff that you can collect, these collectibles, of course, and it has, kind of like a stealth gameplay where you can climb on walls, climb on buildings. You will see these orcs down below you. You can decide to do a big stealth kill and stuff. That's like 50% of the game. The other 50% is the actual combat itself. When orcs do spot you and do decide to attack you, where you have them circling all around you, which is very much like the Batman games. And although I never played any of the Batman games myself intensively, I have heard from many people that this combat system is very similar, and in terms of how satisfying it is and how well it plays, it might even just be better than that. And with that I would absolutely agree, because it is just amazing. When these enemies circle around you, you have your typical kind of like counter moves, and then you just keep on stabbing them, until your combo counter kind of like keeps incrementing to around 5 or 8 or whatever, and then you can do a special move like this brutal, super brutal execution move, just beheading an orc or whatever. And it's bad to say, but it just feels so satisfying, so good. And I just could, it just didn't get old. I could not get tired of it in any way. And yeah, you just have a few typical of these moves that you can keep doing different types of enemies and stuff. I thought it played amazing, and it was very, very fun and satisfying to play. The game also has a few RPG elements in which you get ability points to upgrade kind of like your skill set, where you just have different things to use. You have a dagger for the stealth kill, the bow, of course, for ranged kills, and then you have your typical sword for these Batman type kind of like encounters, and you can keep upgrading this with new moves that you unlock with these ability points. There's also runes that you can apply to your weapons, which will just make them stronger or get you a little bit more health, or it decides to like regenerate your health after you get a certain type of kill and stuff. It's pretty simple. It's nothing. I wouldn't say this is an RPG in any way. This is an action adventure hack and slash game, but just with a few small RPG elements that are very welcome additions, and I really like that about it. Now then, there is the Nemesis System, which is actually really cool, and something that they did decide to kind of like innovate with. It's something that I haven't seen before in a game personally myself, and I don't think it really has been in any game before. Many people seem to be praising this, to heaven or whatever, and I personally don't really think it is that amazing, but still it's really good, where you have these like boss fights, and they will actually remember encountering you. So if they decide, or if they actually manage to kill you and you die, then those enemies actually get better. Their power increases, and the next time you encounter them, they remember that you had already fought them, and they are like, how did you just raise from the dead again, and stuff like that. It's really cool, and it also it kind of like gives everything a meaning. It's not like an orc kills you and that's it, you just get respawned and something. No, this actually has an impact. That orc becomes a captain, becomes a boss, and he gets more powerful, and he's gonna be even harder to defeat next time. That's really cool. The game is actually really, really hard at first, but as you progress and unlock these new skills and get better kind of like at the combat system itself, then you will see that it's not really that hard anymore. But that's great. You kind of like start feeling more powerful and stuff as time progresses, as you get better and better. So that's really great. What I want you to take away from the gameplay is that it just never really got boring, the combat at least. It was very satisfying, and I had a blast playing it myself. So all in all, to conclude my review for Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, this game, let me say it once more, does not reinvent the wheel. It takes elements of Assassin's Creed, of Batman, it adds it to the Lord of the Rings universe, looks amazing, and has a story that is pretty decent to good for an open world game. And in the end, I'd say this game is an absolute must for you to buy and to pick up, because I think that games like these just need to be supported. If you see that this whole year we've been looking forward to Destiny, to Watch Dogs, to all these games that we thought were going to be amazing, and then they didn't live up to the hype, yet still we kept on playing them. This is a game that deserves to be picked up. It won't be picked up by as many people, but it just deserves, for you to buy it. And I think that's really what I want you to take away from this. Buy this game. It is absolutely amazing. I had a blast, and it takes the elements of Assassin's Creed, of Batman, and it just perfects them into an open world game that is super fun and great to play. So all in all, I would give Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor a 9.2 out of 10. Thanks a lot for watching.